What a wounded gray being told me in my garage in 1986 about Jesus' real identity will challenge everything your church ever taught you. Before this story ends, you'll understand why the miracles you've been praying for haven't manifested, and you'll discover that the power Jesus demonstrated isn't locked away in heaven. It's dormant inside you, waiting to be activated. If you're tired of praying without answers, if you've sensed there's more to Jesus than Sunday's sermons reveal, if you've felt abandoned by a God you were taught sits in judgment above you, then what happened to me on that September night will open your eyes to truths that have been hidden for 2,000 years. Subscribe to Stories of Light and activate the bell, because what I discovered beneath the hood of an extraterrestrial craft will transform everything you believe about faith, healing, and human potential. Now, let me tell you how it all began. September 14th, 1986. The date is burned into my memory like a brand. I've fallen asleep on the worn couch in my shop office around 11 p.m., too exhausted to drive the 3 miles home. The Henderson transmission had fought me for 12 hours straight, and my back screamed with every breath. At 54, my body wasn't bouncing back like it used to. The sound woke me, a high-pitched whine that made my teeth ache, followed by an impact that rattled every tool on my pegboard. I jolted upright, heart hammering, thinking a semi had lost control and crashed into my back lot. But the sound was wrong. Too clean. Too precise. I stumbled through the dark shop, past the skeletal remains of a '72 Chevelle on blocks, and pushed open the back door. The September air hit my face, cool and crisp, carrying the scent of motor oil and cut grass from the field beyond my property. And then I saw it. In the overgrown area behind my shop, maybe 40 yards out, something glowed with a pulsing blue-white light. Not fire, not headlights. Something that hurt to look at directly, like staring at a welder's arc. Every rational cell in my brain screamed to go back inside, lock the door, call the police. But 30 years of diagnosing mechanical problems had taught me to investigate strange noises, not run from them. Besides, if something was burning back there, my shop, my livelihood could be in danger. I grabbed my heavy-duty flashlight and crossed the cracked asphalt of my lot, work boots crunching on gravel. As I pushed through the tall grass, the light intensified, and I could make out a shape, circular, maybe 20 feet across, resting at an angle in a shallow depression it had carved into the earth. My flashlight beam seemed pathetic against that otherworldly glow. The object, and God help me, I knew it wasn't any aircraft I'd ever seen, appeared to be made of a seamless metallic material that shifted color as I moved around it. Deep gouges scored one side, and fluid that glowed faintly purple leaked from multiple ruptures in the hull. Jesus Christ, I whispered. And that's when I heard it, not with my ears, with my mind. A voice, weak and desperate, pressing against my consciousness like someone tapping on glass. Help, please, injured. I spun around, searching for the source, and saw movement near the base of the craft. Something small, maybe 4 feet tall, struggling to drag itself away from the wreckage. Fear locked my joints. My flashlight beam found it, and my breath stopped. The being had gray skin, smooth and slightly luminescent in the beam of my light. Its head was disproportionately large, dominated by enormous black eyes that reflected my flashlight like a cat's. It wore no visible clothing, but its body was covered in burns and what looked like impact trauma. Dark fluid, its blood, stained the grass beneath it. Every horror movie, every alien abduction story I'd half dismissed over beers at Murphy's Bar came flooding back. I should have run. Any sane man would have run. But those eyes held me. There was intelligence there. And more than that, there was fear, pain,
the same desperate plea for help I'd seen in wounded animals, in the eyes of my son before the cancer took him. "Please, ship damaged, cannot return, will die here." The voice in my head was clearer now, tinged with what I could only describe as anguish. "I'm not a doctor," I said aloud, my voice shaking. "I don't know how to help you." "You repair complex systems. Ship needs repair. Body will heal if I can return to healing chamber inside. Please." I've asked myself 1,000 times why I didn't run that night. Why I didn't call the authorities, the military, someone better equipped to handle first contact with an extraterrestrial intelligence. But standing there in that field, with that small gray being bleeding in the grass, and my dead son's face floating in my memory, I knew I couldn't walk away. Some part of me, the part that had always fixed what was broken, that couldn't leave anything suffering, wouldn't allow it. "Okay," I heard myself say. "Okay, let me look at you first, make sure you're not going to die on me, then I'll see what I can do about your ship." The being's large eyes seemed to brighten slightly, and that voice touched my mind again. "Gratitude, profound gratitude. You are kind, rarer than you know." I approached slowly, the way I would an injured dog, and knelt beside the being. Up close, its skin had a texture like smooth leather, and it radiated a subtle warmth. 3 fingers on each hand, elongated and delicate. The burns across its torso and left arm looked severe, the skin darker and textured where it had been damaged. Dark fluid, its blood, stained the grass beneath it. "What do you need? What can I do?" Inside ship, medical supplies, blue container marked with this symbol. An image appeared in my mind, 3 intersecting circles forming a trefoil pattern. I'll need to get inside that thing. Hatch still functional. There, the being gestured weakly toward a section of hull that looked seamless to me. With the being's mental guidance, I found the hidden seam and applied pressure in a specific pattern. A section of the hull dilated open like a camera aperture, revealing the ship's interior bathed in that same blue-white light. I'm a small-town mechanic. I've never been to college, never traveled further than 2 states over. But as I climbed into that craft and saw technology that made our most advanced systems look like stone tools, something fundamental shifted in my understanding of the universe. We are not alone. We have never been alone. And nothing would ever be the same again.
My name is Frank Morrison, and before September 14th, 1986, I was about as ordinary as they come. I'd owned Morris's Garage in Cedar Rapids, Nebraska, population 1,847, for 26 years. Took it over from my father in 1960, right after I got back from 2 tours in Korea that I still don't talk about. The shop had been our family business since 1932, and I'd grown up with motor oil under my fingernails and the sound of impact wrenches as my lullaby. I was good at what I did. Damn good. There wasn't an engine built that I couldn't diagnose and repair, given enough time and the right parts. People drove from 3 counties over when their local mechanics threw up their hands. "Take it to Frank Morrison," they'd say. "He'll figure it out." But being good with machines didn't translate to being good with people or with life. My wife Sarah had left me 5 years earlier. Can't say I blamed her. After our son Danny died, I'd crawled into a bottle and hadn't fully climbed back out. She'd needed someone to grieve with, to hold her while she cried, to rage against God together. Instead, she'd gotten a husband who worked 18-hour days to avoid feeling anything at all, who slept in his office more nights than not, who flinched away from touch like it burned. "You're already gone, Frank," she'd said the day she packed her bags. "You died with Danny. I'm just burying the corpse of our marriage." She'd moved to Omaha, remarried an insurance salesman named Dave who probably remembered birthdays and didn't smell like transmission fluid. I signed the divorce papers without contest. What was the point in fighting? She was right. Danny had been 7 when the leukemia took him. 7 years old, with his mother's green eyes and his grandfather's gift for fixing things. He'd spent hours in the shop with me, handing me tools, asking endless questions about how engines worked, why cars needed oil, what made pistons move. "Someday, I'm gonna work here with you, Dad," he'd say, sitting on a rolling stool, grease-stained overalls 3 sizes too big hanging off his tiny frame. "Morrison and Son, right?" "Right, buddy. Morrison and Son." But then came the nosebleeds, the bruising. The night I found him collapsed in the bathroom, his lips blue, his small body convulsing. The emergency room, the diagnosis, the treatments that made him scream and vomit and lose every strand of his beautiful brown hair. 18 months of hell, watching my boy shrink away while doctors pumped poison through his veins and talked about survival rates and experimental protocols. And through it all, Sarah and I prayed. God, how we prayed. We'd been faithful members of Cedar Rapids Baptist Church our entire lives. I'd been baptized there at 12, married there at 23, had Danny baptized there on a bright Sunday morning. Every Sunday, we sat in the 3rd pew from the front. Every Wednesday, we attended Bible study. We tithed faithfully, volunteered for church events, lived according to what we'd been taught were God's commandments. So when Danny got sick, we prayed like our lives depended on it, because they did. Pastor Williams assured us that God heard our prayers. "Have faith, Frank," he'd say, gripping my shoulder with his strong preacher's hands. "The Lord works in mysterious ways. Trust in his plan." I trusted. Sarah trusted. We prayed over Danny's hospital bed every single day. We anointed him with oil like James 5:14 instructed. We had the entire congregation praying for his healing. We did everything the Bible told us to do. And Danny died anyway. He died on a Tuesday morning in March, with the first crocuses pushing up through the last snow outside his hospital window. He died holding his mother's hand, asking me why God wasn't fixing him like he'd fixed all those sick people in the Bible stories I'd read him. "Am I not good enough, Dad?" he'd whispered, his voice barely audible over the hiss of the oxygen machine. "Did I do something bad? Is that why God won't help me?" I had no answer. I held his other hand and watched the light fade from his eyes and felt something inside me die with him. After the funeral, I stopped going to church. Sarah kept attending for a while, desperate for comfort, but every sermon felt like a knife in my chest. Pastor Williams preached about God's love, about his perfect plan, about how we couldn't understand his ways. But I didn't want to understand. I wanted my son back. I wanted the God I had spent my whole life serving to explain why prayers from faithful people meant nothing. Why a 7-year-old boy had to suffer and die while murderers and rapists lived long lives. God works in mysterious ways. That was the platitude everyone offered, as if mystery was comfort, as if not understanding why my child died was supposed to bring me peace. So I stopped praying, stopped believing. What was the point? If God existed and heard our desperate prayers and did nothing, then he was cruel. If he existed and couldn't help, then he was powerless. And if he didn't exist at all, then we'd been talking to empty air while our son died. None of those options offered any hope. For 5 years, I'd lived in a kind of gray numbness. Work, sleep, occasionally eat. Repeat. The shop was my refuge and my prison. I could solve any mechanical problem, could take the most complex engine apart and put it back together better than new. But I couldn't fix what was broken inside me. My father had taught me that every problem has a solution if you just look hard enough, think clearly enough. But grief isn't a problem you can diagnose with a compression test. Faith can't be rebuilt with new gaskets and fresh oil. At 54, I was alive, but not living. Breathing, but not feeling. Going through the motions that seemed increasingly pointless. The shop gave me purpose during daylight hours, but at night, when I lay on that couch in my office, staring at water stains on the ceiling tiles, the questions came back. Why? What was the point of any of it? Had there ever been a God? Or had humanity just been praying to our own desperate hopes, hearing only echoes of our own voices? I'd stopped looking for answers. There weren't any. Or so I thought. That was before a spacecraft crashed in my back lot. Before a gray being with eyes like polished obsidian looked into my soul and told me that everything I'd believed and everything I'd stopped believing was incomplete. The truth I would learn was far stranger and more wonderful than anything Cedar Rapids Baptist Church ever taught me.
The medical supplies the being directed me to looked more like crystalline technology than anything I recognized. Devices that hummed with soft vibrations, containers filled with luminescent gel, instruments whose purpose I couldn't begin to guess. I carried the blue container back outside and knelt beside the gray. Now what? The gel, applied to burns, will accelerate cellular regeneration. My hands shook as I opened the container. The gel inside glowed with a soft amber light and felt warm to the touch, almost alive. I hesitated. "You're sure this won't hurt you more? Pain is temporary. Death is permanent. Please proceed." There was something almost amused in that mental voice, and despite everything, the impossible situation, my shaking hands, the fear still coursing through my veins, I almost laughed. I applied the gel carefully to the worst of the burns. The being's body tensed, a nearly inaudible sound escaping its small mouth, but then relaxed. Before my eyes, the damaged tissue began to change. The darkened areas lightened, the texture smoothed. "Jesus," I breathed. That's impossible." "Not impossible. Advanced. Your species will develop similar technology in approximately 140 of your years. You are a young race, much to learn." "We're the young ones? How old are you?" "Personally, 217 Earth years. My species, your species would perceive our recorded history as spanning approximately 3.2 million years." The number was so incomprehensible, I couldn't process it. I focused on what I could understand. The being needed help, and I was apparently the only one available to provide it. Over the next hour, I cleaned and treated its injuries while it rested against the hull of its ship. The mental communication became easier, more natural. I learned its name was something I couldn't quite grasp, a concept sound that translated roughly to observer of distant light, or seeker. I started calling him Seeker, and he seemed to accept this simplification. "Why were you here?" I asked finally. "Why Earth?" "Observation mission.
Your planet is approaching critical evolutionary threshold. My people have interest in your development. Critical threshold? What does that mean? Soon. I will explain more soon. First, ship must be repaired, or I cannot return home, cannot complete mission. And he paused, and I sensed something like embarrassment in the mental communication. Cannot deliver information that I came specifically to share with one human. With me? You came here to talk to me? Not specifically you, Frank Morrison, but once I crashed here, once you chose to help rather than harm or flee, perhaps it is not accident. Perhaps you are exactly who needed to receive this information. A chill ran down my spine that had nothing to do with the cool September air. What information? About the one you call Jesus, about the true nature of what he taught, about abilities within you that your religions have convinced you do not exist. My breath caught. Jesus? What the hell does Jesus have to do with any of this? Everything. But first, I teach you how to repair my ship. You have skills. You understand systems, energy flow, mechanical relationships. The damage is severe, but not catastrophic. Together, we can restore function. I'm a car mechanic. That thing, I gestured at the craft, is beyond anything I've ever seen. Principles are universal. Combustion, hydraulics, electronics, merely primitive expressions of fundamental laws. I will teach you to perceive the underlying patterns. You will understand more than you imagine possible. Something in his mental voice, a certainty and kindness, reminded me painfully of my father. The old man had believed I could fix anything if I just took my time and looked carefully enough. He'd been wrong about what was broken in my life, but right about my skills with machinery. Okay, I said, surprising myself with the decision. Okay, I'll help you. But after we get your ship working, you're going to explain all of it. Why you're here, what you know about Jesus, why you think I need to hear it. Agreed. I am grateful, Frank Morrison. You offer kindness to stranger despite fear. This is rare quality, rarer than your species understands. I'm not kind, I said bitterly. I'm just tired of watching things die when I could have done something. Yes, your loss. I feel it. Your youngling. The pain is fresh even after your Earth years. My throat tightened. Don't talk about my son. Forgiveness. But know this, what I share with you tonight will answer questions you have carried since his death. Questions about prayers unanswered, about faith that seemed to fail, about whether God is real or fiction. I looked into those large black eyes and saw my own broken reflection. You'd better not be lying to me. I am incapable of intentional falsehood. It is not how my species functions. Now, shall we begin repairs? Your tools will work. I will guide your hands and expand your perception. I stood, retrieved my tool chest from the shop, and prepared to do the most impossible repair job of my life. I had no idea that fixing that ship would break apart everything I thought I knew about reality itself.
The ship's propulsion system was unlike anything in my experience, but Seeker was right. The fundamental principles were recognizable once I looked beyond the alien technology. Energy needed to flow. Damaged conduits needed to be bypassed or repaired. Broken connections needed to be restored. With Seeker's mental guidance, I began to see patterns I'd never noticed before. The way energy moved through systems, the relationship between intention and manifestation, how consciousness itself could interact with matter. "Wait," I said, hands deep in what Seeker called a consciousness amplification matrix. "You're telling me this ship is partly controlled by thought?" All advanced technology eventually merges with consciousness. Thought is not separate from matter. Both are expressions of same fundamental field. Your scientists will discover this eventually. They call it quantum mechanics, but do not yet understand implications. My hands moved almost automatically now, guided by Seeker's instructions, but my mind churned with questions. What does this have to do with Jesus? Everything. Jesus of Nazareth understood these principles. He was teacher, attempting to show your species that separation between spirit and matter is illusion, that consciousness is creative force, that what you call miracles are simply applications of laws your science has not yet discovered. I sat back on my heels, wrench hanging forgotten in my hand. Jesus was what? A scientist? Jesus was advanced consciousness that chose to incarnate in human form to accelerate your species' evolution. What you call miracles, healing sick, multiplying food, calming weather, returning to life, these were demonstrations of consciousness-matter interface principles. That's insane. That's, I searched for words. That's blasphemy. Is it blasphemy to suggest Jesus was more extraordinary than your religions teach, more powerful, more knowledgeable? He told you directly, "You will do even greater works than I have done." Did you believe him? I had no answer. In 30 years of church attendance, I'd never heard anyone seriously suggest we could do what Jesus did. It was always positioned as proof of his unique divinity, not as instruction for human potential. The church says Jesus was God, the only Son of God. That's what makes him different from us. Jesus was expression of divine consciousness, yes, but so are you. So is every human. So is every living thing. The difference was that Jesus remembered this truth fully. Most humans forget. They believe they are separate from divine source. This belief creates your suffering. My hands had gone still. The wrench felt heavy. For 5 years, I've prayed harder than I've ever prayed for anything. I begged God to save my son. Hundreds of people prayed. Why didn't it work? Why did Danny die if prayer is this consciousness technology you're talking about? Frank Morrison, you have asked the question that breaks most humans open to truth. May I show you? Show me what? Why your prayers failed, and how to pray in manner that works. Seeker moved closer, his large eyes holding mine. I felt a gentle presence in my mind, not invasive, but offered, like a hand extended in darkness. You prayed from frequency of desperation, yes? From place of fear and lack? I remembered those hospital room prayers, the begging, the bargaining. Please, God, don't take my son. Please, I'll do anything. Please, please, please. Yes, I whispered. This is why it did not work. Every moment you prayed from fear, from sense of lack, From belief you did not have what you needed, you were affirming the reality you feared. The words hit me like a physical blow. Are you saying I killed my son? That it's my fault? No. The mental voice was gentle, urgent. Your son's illness had physical causes your medicine could not address, but your prayers, offered from correct frequency, might have activated healing capacities within his body. Might have, no certainty, but the way you were taught to pray, begging external God to intervene, this is not how the technology works. Then how? How does it work? Jesus demonstrated. He gave thanks before miracles manifested. He felt gratitude as if healing was already accomplished. He operated from frequency of certainty, not from hope. From presence of divine power within himself, not from belief in distant God who might or might not respond. I thought about every healing story in the Gospels. Your faith has healed you, Jesus had said. Not I have healed you, not God has healed you. Your faith has healed you. You're saying we heal ourselves? That God isn't involved? God is always involved because God is not separate being sitting in distant heaven. God is a field of consciousness that comprise all existence. You are expression of this consciousness. When Jesus said, I am the Father are one, he was revealing truth about all consciousness, not claiming exclusivity. My world was tilting. Everything I'd been taught, everything I'd believed and then stopped believing, was being restructured into a framework that was simultaneously more strange and more logical than anything I'd heard in church. I don't know if I can accept this. You do not need to accept. You need only to observe. I will demonstrate. I will show you that these principles work. And then you will choose continue in belief system that failed you or embrace knowledge that empowers you. Demonstrate how? Seeker's mental voice carried something like a smile. Finish repairing my ship. Then I will show you 5 things that will shatter everything you think you know about reality, consciousness, and the true teachings of Jesus of Nazareth. My hands returned to the work, but my mind spun with possibilities that were either insane or the most important truths I'd ever encountered. I had no idea which.
The ship repair took another hour. My hands worked automatically, following Seeker's guidance, but my mind kept trying to reject everything he was telling me. This is crazy, I muttered, rerouting what Seeker called a harmonic resonance conductor. I'm having a breakdown. Too much stress, too much grief, too many years alone. That's what this is. I'm hallucinating. You are not hallucinating, Frank. Your mind seeks rational explanation for extraordinary experience. This is expected. Expected? How is any of this expected? I'm taking instruction from a gray alien while repairing a UFO in Nebraska. This is the definition of insane. If you were hallucinating, would the repairs function? Would my injuries heal? Would physical evidence exist? He had a point. The ship was responding to my work. The damaged systems were coming back online. Lights that had been dark now glowed softly. Energy hummed through conduits I'd repaired. I could be dreaming. This could all be a dream. Shall I share memory of your son's final words? Shall I show you that I know things no dream construct could know? Don't you dare! But the memory came anyway, gentle but undeniable. Danny's small hand in mine, his voice barely a whisper. Tell Mom I'm not scared anymore. Tell her I see Grandpa.
He's here, Dad. It's not the end. He says it's not the end. I'd never told anyone about those words. Not Sarah, not the pastor. They'd felt too private, too precious, too impossible to explain. How do you know that? My voice broke. Your consciousness holds all your memories. When you permitted me into your mind to guide repairs, I perceived them. I tell you this not to violate your privacy, but to demonstrate, I am real. This is real. Your reality is expanding, not fracturing. Even if you're real, I said, everything you're saying contradicts the Bible, contradicts 2,000 years of Christianity. You're telling me the church got it wrong? Not wrong, incomplete. What Jesus taught and what the church teaches are not identical. Many truths were lost, altered, or deliberately suppressed. Why? Why would the church change Jesus' message? Not malice, control. People who understand their own divine power do not require institutional intermediaries. If humans knew they could heal themselves, manifest abundance, communicate directly with divine consciousness, what purpose would religious hierarchy serve? I'd stopped working, wrench dangling from numb fingers. You're saying it's a conspiracy? The church has been lying for centuries? Not conspiracy. Evolution of doctrine based on human fear and desire for control. Consider, Jesus said, "The kingdom of God is within you." Your church teaches, kingdom is distant heaven you reach after death through institutional approval. Which teaching empowers you? Which requires dependency? But the Bible is collection of texts, edited and translated numerous times, selected by councils of men with political agendas. Much wisdom remains, but much was also excluded. Gospels that emphasize Jesus' teachings on inner divinity were declared heretical and destroyed. Why? I don't know. Because empowered people are ungovernable. Awakened consciousness cannot be controlled by external authority. The church chose survival over truth, not evil, but not complete honesty either. If I accept what you're saying, I said slowly, then I've wasted my entire life. Everything I believed, everything I taught Danny, all those years in church, it was all based on incomplete information? Not wasted. Preparation. You learned discipline, moral framework, reverence for divine. These are valuable. You simply did not have complete picture. Now you do. This is growth, not betrayal. Growth? I feel like my entire foundation is crumbling. Old foundation was built on sand of external authority. New foundation will be built on stone of direct experience. Which is stronger? The ship's systems were nearly fully functional. Seeker had climbed inside, checking various components, his movements more fluid now that the healing gel had done its work. Why me? I asked. I'm nobody. I'm a washed-up mechanic who couldn't keep his family together. Why would I be the one to hear this? Seeker's head appeared in the hatchway. Jesus chose fishermen, tax collectors, prostitutes. He did not choose priests and scribes. Why? I don't know. Because wounded people are open people. Broken people are humble people. Those who have suffered understand compassion. Those who have lost everything have nothing left to protect. You are perfect candidate, Frank Morrison. I don't feel perfect. I feel broken. Yes, this is why you can receive truth. Unbroken people cannot learn. They believe they already know. If what you're saying is true, then I failed Danny. I prayed wrong. I didn't know how to activate healing. My ignorance killed him. No, the mental voice was firm, almost stern. Your son's path was his own. You could have prayed perfectly, and the outcome might have been identical. Some souls choose short incarnations. Some lessons require experience of death. You cannot know his soul's purpose. You can only know your own." His purpose was to die at 7? That's cruel. Your perspective is one lifetime. His soul's perspective is thousands of lifetimes across multiple dimensions. What looks like tragedy from your viewpoint may be profound choice from his. You cannot judge what you cannot fully see. If I accept this, everything changes. How I see the world, how I pray, what I believe, I'll be different. I'll be alone in this knowledge. You will not be alone. Across your planet, thousands are awakening to same truths. You are part of a wave, not isolated case. And yes, you will be different. This is the point. The old you could not heal. The new you will discover abilities you cannot currently imagine. What if I don't want to be different? What if I prefer familiar misery to unknown possibility? Then you will continue to suffer. This is your choice always. But Frank, you have been miserable for 5 years. Has it served you? Has grief brought you peace? Has isolation healed your heart? No. Then what do you have to lose by trying different approach? The ship was repaired, fully functional. Seeker ran diagnostics while I sat in the grass, head in my hands, entire worldview collapsing. Danny believed what I taught him, I said, tears finally coming. He believed God would heal him because I told him God answers prayers. He died thinking he wasn't good enough, that he'd done something wrong, that God had abandoned him. And if what you're saying is true, I gave him that belief. I planted that poison in his mind. Seeker emerged from the ship and approached me slowly. He placed one 3-fingered hand on my shoulder, and I felt warmth flow through me. Your son understands now, Frank. Death is transition, not ending. In non-physical state, all becomes clear. He knows you taught him what you believed was true. He knows you loved him perfectly, and he forgives you for what you could not know. Will you forgive yourself? The sobs came then, 5 years of held tears, all the grief I'd buried under work and isolation and bitterness. I wept like I hadn't since the funeral, and Seeker's hand remained on my shoulder, steady and warm and impossibly kind. When I finally looked up, my face wet, my chest aching, something had shifted inside me. A wall had cracked, and through that crack, possibility was seeping in. "Show me," I whispered. "Show me these demonstrations. Prove to me that what you're saying is real." "I will, and then you will choose. Old way or new way. Suffering or transformation. Fear or love." "I'm ready." "No, you are not ready, but you are willing. This is enough. Come, I will show you 5 things that will change you forever."
"Stand still," Seeker said, his mental voice gentle. He moved around me slowly, those large black eyes seeming to look through me rather than at me. After a moment, he began speaking, not descriptions, but precise medical details I'd never shared with anyone. Chronic lower back pain, 3 herniated discs, L4, L5, L5, S1, S1 compression, originated from vehicle accident 16 years ago. You compensate with altered posture, creating secondary pain in right hip and left shoulder. How could you possibly? Your left knee, torn meniscus from fall at age 17, healed incorrectly, arthritis developing. In 6 years, you will require replacement surgery if current trajectory continues. My breath caught. The knee injury was from high school football. I'd never had it properly diagnosed. Elevated blood pressure, 160/95, early cardiovascular disease, family history of cardiac events. Your father died of heart attack at age 63. You carry same genetic markers. Dad's heart attack had killed him instantly. I'd found him in the shop, slumped over a Cadillac engine.
And here, Seeker's mental voice softened. Deep sadness, biochemical. Your brain produces insufficient serotonin. Clinical depression, untreated for 5 years. This is why food tastes like ash, why sleep brings no rest, why existing feels like drowning. Tears pricked my eyes again. How? Every physical condition creates unique energy signature. Every emotion has measurable electromagnetic component. Jesus perceived these patterns. This is how he knew Lazarus was dead before arriving, how he knew woman at well had 5 husbands. Perception, not supernatural knowledge, technology of awareness. Bring me dying plant, Seeker instructed. In the corner of my shop, I kept a struggling geranium a customer had abandoned months ago. Brown leaves, drooping stem, more dead than alive. I'd watered it occasionally out of habit, but expected it to die completely. I brought it out and set it before Seeker in the grass. "Watch closely," he said. He placed his hands, 3-fingered, alien, impossible, on either side of the pot without touching the plant itself. His large eyes closed. A soft hum filled the air, vibrating in my chest cavity. And I watched the plant change. It happened gradually at first, then faster. Brown leaves shifted to yellow, then to green. The drooping stem straightened. New growth appeared at the tips, bright green shoots that hadn't existed seconds before. The plant filled out, transformed from near death to vibrant health in less than 10 minutes. "Jesus Christ," I breathed. Precisely. Jesus used same principles. He directed consciousness energy, what you might call love frequency, to activate healing template already present in the plant's cellular structure. Nothing was added, only restoration to optimal pattern. Could you do that with a person? Yes, I already have, my own injuries. But more important, you can learn this. Any human can. Jesus demonstrated this clearly. You will do even greater works than these. He meant it literally. You have rice? Seeker asked. I went to my office kitchenette and retrieved the half-empty bag of minute rice I kept for occasional meals. I poured maybe a cup into a bowl and brought it outside. Set it down, step back, observe. Seeker positioned himself before the bowl. The humming returned, this time deeper. His hands moved in patterns I couldn't follow, and his large eyes seemed to glow from within. The rice in the bowl began to shimmer. At first I thought it was a trick of the light, but then I saw it clearly. New grains appearing, materializing from nothing. The bowl filled slowly but visibly, individual grains popping into existence like tiny white flowers blooming and fast forward. When Seeker stopped, the bowl was completely full, easily 3 times what I'd poured. "That's impossible," I said, my voice barely functioning. "Impossible by your current physics, yes, but matter is not what your science believes. Matter is consciousness vibrating slowly. When you understand relationship between thought and form, molecular reorganization becomes possible. This is how Jesus multiplied loaves and fishes." You're saying Jesus could do this? Jesus could do far more than this. This is elementary application. Jesus mastered consciousness-matter interface at a level I cannot demonstrate in physical form. He could reorganize matter at will, transmute elements, create from seemingly nothing. Not magic, technology. Your back, the chronic pain. Would you like it gone? Could you heal me? No, I can teach you to heal yourself. Come, sit, I will guide. I sat cross-legged in the grass, my back protesting the position. Seeker sat opposite me, his large eyes holding mine. Close your eyes. Focus on the pain. Do not resist it. Feel it completely. I did. The familiar ache, the grinding sensation in my lower spine, the electric tingling down my right leg. Now, conceive of this pain as energy pattern. See it in your mind as a color. What color is it? Red, I said without thinking. Dark red, almost black. Good. Now bring in different energy, the energy of love, not emotional love, pure love frequency. Imagine it as light. What color? It's golden white. Direct this golden light to the red pain, not forcefully, gently. Love does not attack. Love transforms by presence. I visualized it, feeling slightly foolish but trying anyway. The golden light touching the dark red pain. And something happened. Warmth spread through my lower back. The pain didn't vanish, but it softened. The sharp edges blurred, the grinding eased. Now say, my body remembers perfect health. I activate healing template within my cells. I am restored. I repeated the words, and the warmth intensified. The pain receded further. When I opened my eyes 15 minutes later, my back felt better than it had in years. What did you do to me? Nothing. You did this. I merely taught you to direct consciousness energy that was always present. Jesus taught this directly. Your faith has healed you. Your consciousness, aligned with healing frequency, activates body's regenerative capacity.
I stood carefully, bent, twisted. The pain was still present, but reduced by at least 70%. This is real, I whispered. This is actually real. Do you know someone currently suffering illness? Seeker asked. I thought immediately of Peggy Henderson, whose transmission I'd been repairing. She'd mentioned her mother was in the hospital, pneumonia that wasn't responding to antibiotics. My customer's mother, she's in the hospital, pneumonia. Good. Do you have photograph of her? Or can you visualize her clearly? I've met her. I can visualize her. Then sit. Focus on her image. I will teach you to send healing energy across distance. For 20 minutes, Seeker guided me through the process, visualizing Peggy's mother, generating the golden healing frequency, directing it across space to her hospital bed in Omaha, holding the certainty that healing was already complete. This won't work, I said. She's 60 miles away. Physical distance is irrelevant to consciousness. Time and space are local phenomena. Consciousness operates beyond both. Jesus healed the centurion's servant from distance. He healed the Syrophoenician woman's daughter without seeing her. The principle is ancient. 2 days later, Peggy Henderson came to pick up her car. "Frank, I have to tell you something incredible," she said, her eyes bright. "Mom's pneumonia disappeared. I mean, completely. The doctors can't explain it. One day she was on a ventilator. The next day, her lungs were clear. They're calling it a miracle." "When did she turn around?" I asked, my heart pounding. "Saturday night, 11 p.m. She said she felt this warmth go through her whole body, and then she could breathe again." Saturday night, 11 p.m. exactly when Seeker had guided me through the distance healing. After Peggy Henderson left, I sat in my shop office, staring at my hands. These impossible, ordinary mechanics hands that had just performed a miracle.
The demonstrations had broken something open inside me, some final resistance to the impossible. As dawn began to lighten the eastern sky, Seeker and I sat in the grass beside his repaired ship, and he shared truths that would reshape my entire existence. "Tell me about Jesus," I said. "Who was he, really?" Jesus of Nazareth was not what your religions teach. He was not only Son of God in sense of exclusivity. He was advanced consciousness, what your New Age seekers call starseed, who chose to incarnate in human form to accelerate your species' evolution. Starseed? You mean he was an alien? Not in crude sense. He was consciousness that had evolved far beyond need for physical form. He had completed what we call the ascension cycle, graduated beyond limitation of material existence. But he chose to descend back into physical form because your species was ready for evolutionary leap forward and required teaching, demonstration, activation. The idea should have shocked me. Somehow it didn't. It felt true in a way church doctrine never had. What was he teaching? The truth about human nature, that you are not powerless sinners requiring external salvation. You are divine consciousness experiencing temporary human limitation. The separation between you and God is illusion. I and the Father are one was not claim of unique status. It was revelation of universal truth. So when Jesus healed people, he was demonstrating what awakened human consciousness can accomplish. Every healing, he said same thing. Your faith has healed you. Not I healed you. Not God healed you. Your faith. Your consciousness, aligned with healing frequency, activates regenerative capacity already present in body. But he raised the dead. He walked on water. All applications of consciousness matter interface principles. Frank, your scientists are beginning to discover what Jesus knew 2,000 years ago. Matter is not solid. It is energy, vibration, consciousness manifested in slow form. When you understand this deeply, when you know it not intellectually but experientially, matter becomes responsive to consciousness. I thought about the rice multiplying in the bowl, the plant healing before my eyes, my own back pain diminishing under directed consciousness. Why didn't he just tell people this clearly? He did, but his words were recorded by people with limited understanding, translated multiple times, edited by religious authorities with institutional interests. Teachings that emphasized human divine potential were suppressed or eliminated. Gospels that clearly stated these truths were declared heretical. Because people who understood their own power wouldn't need the church? Precisely. Institution based on dependency cannot promote independence. System based on external authority cannot encourage internal knowing. So Jesus' message of empowerment became doctrine of submission. His demonstration of human potential became proof of his unique divinity. His invitation to do even greater works was quietly ignored. The sky was growing lighter. I could hear birds beginning their morning songs. What about prayer? I asked. How does it really work? You have been taught to pray as supplication, as begging external God for intervention. This is precisely backwards. What do you mean? Effective prayer is conscious manifestation.
Jesus demonstrated this clearly. Before every miracle, he gave thanks. Not hope, not request. Gratitude for what was already accomplished on energetic level before physical manifestation occurred. Feel as if you've already received it? Exactly. Your brain does not distinguish between vividly imagined experience and actual experience. When you visualize desired outcome and generate emotional frequency of already having received it, you align your consciousness with that reality. Physical manifestation follows necessarily. But I prayed for Danny's healing. I believed he would be healed. No, you hoped he would be healed. You begged for healing. Every prayer came from frequency of lack, of not having, of desperate need. And energy follows attention. Consciousness manifests what it focuses upon. By praying from place of, "He is sick and I need him to be well," you reinforced sickness as current reality. The truth hit me like a sledgehammer. So I did kill him. My prayers. No. Seeker's mental voice was firm. Listen carefully. Your son's illness had physical causes. Your prayers, offered correctly, might have helped activate his body's healing potential. Might have. But his soul's journey was his own. Some illnesses serve purposes beyond physical healing. Some lives are meant to be brief but profound. You cannot control every outcome. You can only align your consciousness with what you desire and trust the process. How? How do I do that? First, feel gratitude for what you desire as if already received. If you desire health, feel perfect health in your body now. If you desire abundance, feel wealthy now. If you desire love, feel loved now. Emotion is power source. Thought is direction. Second, maintain frequency. One moment of perfect prayer followed by hours of worry cancels manifestation. Consistency in consciousness is key. This is discipline. This is work. This is why Jesus spent years in training before public ministry. Third, release attachment to how. Do not dictate method of delivery. Universe has infinite ways to manifest your desire that you cannot imagine. Set intention, feel gratitude, then trust. This is what Jesus meant by, "Seek first the kingdom, and all else will be added." Kingdom is state of consciousness. From that state, manifestation is automatic. And love? I asked. Jesus talked constantly about love. Because love is the technology underlying all creation. Not emotional love. That is human interpretation. Love frequency is fundamental energetic force that maintains all existence. When Jesus said God is love, he was being technically precise. I don't understand. Love frequency is consciousness in its highest vibration. At this frequency, creation is effortless. Healing is automatic. Manifestation is rapid. When Jesus operated, he operated from this frequency constantly. This is why his presence was healing, why people felt better in his proximity. The frequency itself transforms. Can I reach that frequency? You already have. When you were with your son, in moments of pure tenderness, you were in love frequency. When you worked on the engine with complete absorption, present in the moment, you touched it. Any moment of presence, appreciation, compassion, or creative flow is a taste of this frequency. Jesus lived in it perpetually. The sun broke over the horizon, golden light flooding across the field. Seeker's ship gleamed in the dawn. "Why are you telling me all this?" I asked. Because your planet is approaching critical evolutionary threshold. The next 20 years will determine whether humanity awakens to its divine nature or continues in destructive patterns. Beings like me have been sent to accelerate awakening, to remind you who you are, to correct distortions in teachings that would have freed you centuries ago. What do you want me to do? Live these truths. Embody what Jesus demonstrated. When people notice something different about you, and they will, share what you have learned. Not by preaching, by being, by demonstrating, by showing that awakened consciousness produces transformed life. I'm a mechanic in Nebraska. Who's going to listen to me? Jesus was carpenter in Nazareth. Buddha was spoiled prince. All great teachers began as ordinary humans who encountered extraordinary truth. You are awakener, Frank Morrison, seed that sprouted early. Your function is to bloom so others remember blooming is possible. The ship's systems hummed to life. Seeker stood, preparing to board.
"Wait," I said. "Will I see you again?" "Perhaps. But you will not need me. You have direct connection to same consciousness that guided Jesus. Trust your inner knowing. Live these principles. Your transformation will teach more than words ever could." He climbed into the hatch, then paused. "And Frank, your son is proud of you. He watches. He waits to greet you when your physical journey ends. And he understands now what you could not teach him then. Death is transition, not ending. He is not lost. He has simply graduated ahead of you." Tears blurred my vision. "Tell him." "He knows. He has always known. Now go, live, awaken, become the teaching." The hatch sealed. The ship rose silently, a blur of light against the dawn sky, and vanished. I stood alone in my field, covered in dew and dirt and grease, 54 years old and completely transformed.
I didn't go home that morning. I sat in my shop office watching sunrise through the window, and something fundamental shifted in my understanding of reality. Everything I'd believed was incomplete, but not wrong. Jesus was real, more extraordinary, more powerful than church had taught. God was real, not as distant judge, but as the consciousness field comprising all existence, including me. I was divine, not in some abstract theological sense, but actually, literally, practically divine. The knowledge settled into my bones with absolute certainty. Around noon, still sitting in my office, I began to cry. But these weren't tears of grief. They were tears of relief so profound I shook with them. I wasn't abandoned. God hadn't ignored my prayers. I'd simply been using the technology incorrectly, like trying to start a car by turning the key backwards. Danny wasn't in hell worrying about whether he'd been good enough. He was wherever consciousness goes after death, free from pain, understanding everything. I was not alone. I'd never been alone. The sobs came from deep in my chest, 5 years of accumulated anguish releasing all at once. That evening, I tried the healing technique on myself again. The back pain that had plagued me for years, I visualized the golden light, felt gratitude for perfect health, and held it for 20 minutes. By the time I stood up, the pain was 90% gone. I walked, without limping, for the first time in years. Within 3 days, I began noticing things I'd never seen before. Soft glows around people's heads when I relaxed my vision slightly. Energy patterns flowing through living things. The way emotions created visible distortions in the air. My dreams became vivid, instructive. I woke with solutions to problems I hadn't consciously worked on. Ideas for improvements to car systems that turned out to be brilliant. My awareness was expanding and the world was vastly stranger and more beautiful than I'd ever imagined. By the end of the first week, concrete changes were manifesting. The chronic back pain was almost completely gone. I had energy I hadn't felt in years. I started sleeping deeply, waking refreshed. Customers who'd been dodging payment suddenly showed up with cash. A car I'd bought for parts turned out to be worth 3 times what I'd paid. Small windfalls appeared from unexpected directions. I wasn't doing anything different externally, but internally, everything had shifted. I started praying again, but in an entirely different way. Not, "God, please help me make rent this month," but, "Thank you for abundant income flowing easily into my life. Thank you for financial peace and security." Not, "Please help me feel less lonely," but, "Thank you for meaningful connection. Thank you for love in my life." Feeling the gratitude as if already received, holding the frequency, trusting, and things began to change. 2 weeks after Seeker left, I caught myself smiling while working on a transmission. When had I last smiled during work? When had I last felt joy in the simple act of fixing things? I wasn't the same broken man who'd fallen asleep on that couch September 14th. That Frank Morrison had been convinced he was powerless, alone, abandoned by God and universe. This Frank Morrison knew he was divine consciousness, temporarily inhabiting a mechanic's body, learning and growing and creating his reality with every thought. A month later, Sarah called. We hadn't spoken in 6 months. "Frank," she said, "this is going to sound strange, but are you okay? Something feels different. I can't explain it." "I'm better than okay," I said, and I meant it. We talked for 2 hours. I didn't tell her about Seeker, not yet, but I told her about learning to pray differently, about understanding consciousness as creative force, about discovering that Jesus taught empowerment, not submission. "You sound like you again," she said softly. "Like the man I married before Danny." "I know. I'm not the same, Sarah, but I'm also more myself than I've been in years." 6 weeks after the encounter, a young mother brought me her car for brake work. While I worked, she sat in my office, visibly distraught. "You okay?" I asked during a break. She burst into tears. Her daughter had leukemia, the same diagnosis that had killed Danny. I could have stayed silent, could have offered empty condolences. Instead, I taught her what Seeker had taught me. I lost my son to leukemia 5 years ago, and recently I learned something about prayer that I wished I'd known then. I taught her about consciousness as creative force, about feeling gratitude for healing as if already received, about love frequency as actual energetic medicine. "This sounds crazy," she said. "Try it anyway. What do you have to lose?" 3 months later, she came back. Her daughter's cancer was in remission. The doctors called it spontaneous recovery. I don't know if it was what you taught me, but I prayed the way you said every day, feeling her healthy, thanking God for her healing before it happened, and then it happened. It was you, your consciousness, your love. That's what Jesus taught. That's what he demonstrated, and you just proved it works. That was the moment I knew my purpose. Not to preach, not to start a church, but to teach by living example, to share what I'd learned with anyone ready to hear it, to help others remember what Jesus came to teach. We are divine. We are powerful. We are loved. And we are capable of miracles.
The weeks following Seeker's departure brought profound changes to every aspect of my life. My shop became more than a place to fix cars. People started lingering after their repairs, asking me questions about why I seemed different, why I looked younger, why I moved without pain, why I seemed peaceful. I didn't advertise what had happened. I simply lived
differently. I prayed with gratitude instead of desperation. I visualized desired outcomes while feeling them as already real. I practiced the healing techniques Seeker had taught me on myself and cautiously on others. The results were undeniable. Word spread through Cedar Rapids that something had changed at Morrison's garage. Mrs. Patterson came in with chronic migraines that 3 doctors couldn't resolve. I taught her the consciousness technique while rotating her tires. 2 weeks later, the migraines were gone. Tom Hendricks, who'd been scheduled for back surgery, asked me what I'd done for my own back pain. I showed him. He canceled the surgery 6 weeks later, pain-free for the first time in a decade. Sarah's arthritis, Jake's insomnia, Linda's anxiety attacks. One by one, people with conditions medicine couldn't fully address found relief through the principles Seeker had taught me. I wasn't healing them, I was teaching them to heal themselves, exactly as Jesus had done. Sarah and I started having coffee every Wednesday. We didn't get back together, too much water under that bridge, but we became friends again, real friends. "You've forgiven yourself for Danny," she said one afternoon. "I can see it. How did you do that?" I told her about Seeker then, all of it. The crash, the repair, the teachings about Jesus and consciousness and human divine nature. She listened without interrupting, tears streaming down her face. "Do you believe me?" I asked when I finished. "I don't know," she said honestly, "but I believe you're happier than you've been in years. I believe something extraordinary happened to you, and I believe that whatever it was, it gave you back to yourself." That was enough. My business tripled within 6 months, not from advertising, but from word of mouth. People drove from counties away to bring me their cars and hear me talk about consciousness, prayer, and Jesus's real teachings. I wasn't charging for the spiritual conversations, just doing honest mechanical work, but the universe seemed to reward the service. Money flowed easily for the first time in years. By spring of 1987, I was hosting small gatherings in my shop on Sunday mornings, not church services, consciousness development circles. 15 people the first week, 40 the second. By summer, nearly 100 people were crowding into my shop to learn about Jesus's true teachings, about consciousness as creative force, about activating healing abilities within themselves. Pastor Williams from Cedar Rapids came once, stayed for the whole session, and left without a word. A week later, he called. "Frank, I've been a pastor for 30 years, and what you're teaching, it's in the Bible. It's in Jesus's actual words. I just never saw it before. How did I miss it?" "Because you were taught to miss it," I said gently. "We all were. But now we get to remember." The young mother whose daughter went into remission brought 3 other families with sick children. I taught them all the same techniques. Not all healed. I learned that outcomes varied for complex reasons, but all found peace, and several experienced remarkable improvements. My transformation was catalyzing transformation in others, exactly as Seeker had predicted. I wasn't special, I was simply awake, and awakeness is contagious. Every person who learned these principles and applied them became a living demonstration that Jesus' promise was true. "You will do even greater works than I have done." Not someday, not in heaven, now, here, in ordinary lives, in small towns, through ordinary people who remembered the extraordinary truth of who they really are.
What happened to me in that field in September 1986 reveals something you may have suspected your entire life, but were afraid to fully embrace. You have power you've never been taught to use. The churches, the institutions, the religious authorities who claim to speak for God, they've kept you small. not from evil intent, but from their own fear and misunderstanding. They taught you to beg a distant God for intervention. Jesus taught you to recognize the God within and consciously create your reality. They taught you that miracles are supernatural exceptions to natural law. Jesus taught you that miracles are natural applications of consciousness principles anyone can learn. They taught you that only Jesus could heal, manifest, transform reality. Jesus explicitly said, "You will do even greater works than I have done." Did you believe him? For 30 years, I didn't. I prayed desperately when my son was dying, and nothing happened. I blamed God. I blamed myself. I lost my faith, my family, my sense of purpose. Then, a wounded gray being crashed in my backlot and taught me what the church never could, that I'd been praying wrong, that Jesus' teachings had been distorted, that human consciousness is creative force, not passive receiver. And when I learned to pray the way Jesus actually prayed, with gratitude for what was already manifesting, feeling the reality before it appeared physically, miracles became normal. Now you face the same choice I faced that September night. You can dismiss this as insanity, as false teaching, as dangerous heresy. You can return to familiar prayers that haven't worked, to beliefs that haven't brought peace, to churches that haven't empowered you. That's safe. That's comfortable. That's what everyone else is doing. Or you can do what I did. You can experiment. You can try praying with gratitude instead of desperation. You can practice visualizing desired outcomes while feeling them as already real. You can test whether consciousness actually creates reality. What do you have to lose? Has the old way been working for you? Has begging God for help brought the miracles you needed? Has faith, as you've practiced it, transformed your life? Leave a comment and share your story. Have you experienced a moment when prayer seemed to work differently? When consciousness manifested reality? When you felt the divine power within yourself? You're not alone in these experiences. Thousands are waking up to the same truths. And your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear, to remember who they really are. Subscribe to Stories of Light for more testimonies that reveal hidden truths about Jesus, consciousness, and human divine potential. Because Frank Morrison's encounter in 1986 is just one of thousands. The great awakening Jesus came to trigger is happening now. Will you be part of it? Remember, Jesus' return is not him descending from clouds to save you. Jesus' return is you awakening to the Christ consciousness that has always existed within you. You are the second coming. Not because you're Jesus, but because you're finally becoming who Jesus came to show you that you are.